That heifer right there just don't even care.
Go yourself now.
What do you say, folks?
Hey, everybody.
Everybody's having a good Sunday, or had a good Sunday evening.
Mm-hmm.
Let everybody kind of trickle on in real quick. We've been yakking for a few minutes.
Not very intelligent conversation all the time.
Uh,
It's fun though.
Got to give it to little Vincent. I don't know if you're here yet, buddy.
Everybody.
Yeah, little rascal come in and he said he's first tonight.
Mm-hmm.
So, good job there, buddy. You got ahead of DC and everybody else that tried to jump in there. So,
My favorite Alabamans.
who
Love Walker.
all we got in here so far? Yeah, they coming on in.
And James. And DC.
Mr. Larry was.
Didn't say he was going to try to catch a power nap.
Yeah. Can y'all hear her okay? If you can, give me a thumbs up.
If not, I'll use my mad voice and speak up some.
Yeah. Mr. Larry was feeling a little under the weather. We'll kind of get in that a little bit when we get into the prayer list. But Ed, James, Honeystone, Keith, Stone River, Michael, Tar Hill, Walker B Ranch here, Darren, Randy.
Well, both Randy. Well,
Appreciate you. Yeah. All right, Mr. Larry, you got your power nap in?
Maybe it did you some good.
Yes, sir.
There's Lee.
Yeah, some of the Louisiana.
He's feeling better. There's Mr. Mark.
All right.
29 degrees. Yeah, and I'm bundled up because it's like 45 outside.
Yeah, we got the little space heat, bathroom heater, whatever you want to call the thing, in here, and she's all bundled up. But
I love it this time of year, but my bones just don't take the cold really well. But
like I said, I hope everybody's had a good weekend. We've had it was an interesting week. We had some good conversations. We're trying to debunk myths. We had a few honeybee encounters and went out and popped the lids and checked on everybody. But we finally got some much needed rain down here, and it rained. It was
forever. I thought it was one of them Forrest Gump moments. Yeah, I didn't think it was ever going to quit raining.
Hey, Deb, appreciate it. Good to see you.
Hadn't seen you in a while.
But a week's worth of rain, according to my little rain gauge out there, we got a little over 2.5 inches in a week and some
like
change.
A real rain. It was like just enough of a good steady drizzle to get everything soaking wet. But that was what we needed, though. It didn't all just wash down the hill.
Well, then, what was it? I think Wednesday or Thursday we started getting into a little bit of sunshine, and the weekend.
Thursday at finally.
It's just been a beautiful, beautiful weekend.
It has.
70s in the daytime, and I think tonight's supposed to be one of our lowest nights. Last night tonight, far down in the 40s, and we're gonna warm back up in the nighttime, I believe. But we have some interesting conversations going there down the road, my woman and I. And we went through the whole, this ain't got nothing to do with beekeeping. We're going to get into some of that in a little bit. I got a lot of reading to do, and we're going to open the chat if y'all want to chime in too. But debunking the myth of chupacabra, the rougarou, big feet.
That was it.
That was it.
Okay.
And there was something. It seems like there was another one. But for 44 miles, we had a good conversation of why they're.
He drug that conversation out for 44 miles going down the highway.
So, real quick, I've been holding this all week. I've been wanting to tell everybody my theory. So, any of you big feet believers, don't get upset with me.
You got DC and Keith thinking you're actually serious. No, yeah, this is just how he passes the time. Yeah, Darren, he did tell me a story about some
UFOs. That was it. Thank you, Darren. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yep.
I was really hoping he'd have left that one out.
Real quick, so I don't drag the whole thing out on mythical creatures.
No Easter bunny? No, we ain't getting an Easter bunny.
I'll get on that closer to Christmas. We'll go from Christmas to the Easter bunny. But I'm gonna tell y'all why. Especially there ain't one. If there is a big feet, it's not below the Mason Dixon. And I'm gonna tell you why. Because 99% of all the good old boys down here, the women too, okay, y'all do this as well. Somebody's got a firearm. And you cannot tell me in the last 100 years, people have not run up on a big feet, and especially an old redneck or country boy said, I'm fixing to shoot that thing, drag it out the woods, put it on the hood of the truck, and take it to the closest filling station to show everybody in the community what you just did. Then you auction it off to the next redneck for the highest bid. And it goes from there. But that's my theory on big feet, and I'll get off of that.
Thank you. You want to move on to your beekeeping news or something, like real news or something?
I'm trying to think. Well, on the
gosh, Bob. I look at Bigfoot every morning in the mirror.
Yeah. We put the strong microbial on there. On the last little 3 colonies we got, they're getting in it pretty doggone good. I went out day before yesterday and just popped the lid and looked down in there on everybody. But I think we're gradually starting to get into a dearth, and because they're hitting the open feeder a little bit, but they seem to be getting into that pollen sub quite a bit more than that open feeder right now. But they seem to be enjoying the strong microbial. I'm just going to assume off this, because we're not into a full dearth of any sorts yet.
Mm-hmm.
They're not really touching the Acu tablets yet. We got them in there, and everything is sitting by each other in the deal. But they haven't been real interested in that yet. So I'm going to assume they'll start indulging on more of that whenever the dirt really starts kicking in, or we get a little bit of freezing weather and kill everything off for a couple of days.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree. He said, I believe it's going to be a wacky winter for most. It's been a wacky year, so that would just be kind of fit to end it with a wacky winter.
It sure would, because I don't know. The only thing I know to do is we'll put the feed out there, and I'm going to give y'all a little hint. Pollen.
Mm-hmm.
Whether to went back and did a little study in an old bee journal and got on an article. It's a long article, but this dude breaks it down in a lot of the words I can't even tell you how to put them out there. But it's more or less his argument on what he heard from Dr. Doolittle back in the 1889, roughly, I think it is. But whether to give the bees pollen in winter or not, due to the fact of they called it dysentery in the bees back then. But I'm going more along the lines, I guess, the nosema, something along those lines, what they're explaining. But pretty interesting. Then there's some, I forget, small little articles written by different people. And the earliest one was 1771, and it goes into the 1860s, but it's kind of everybody's argument, but it gets into American foul brood, European foul brood, then some fellows, his own words for another foul brood, but pickled foul brood. And it goes down and it explains all these different stuff, but there's some really good arguments in there. I guess kind of keep an open mind if you're going to sit through and listen to my jabbering on it. But it's a really interesting little read. Is it good to feed the pollen, or is it bad to feed the pollen in winter settings? So we'll get into that shortly. But you want to do the prayer list? I know we've got some names added to it.
Yeah, we had a few actually, but we had some good news updates too. So, it's okay. We still have Keith Larimore on here with his eye troubles, and I hadn't heard, which I missed last week, but I hadn't heard about him in a little while.
Keith?
Okay, yeah.
I can't remember if he come in or not on last week's live or not, but the way he talked the last few times that he's kind of having fits with his eyes again.
Yeah. Mr. Martin Miller and Hillbilly Earl, Ed and his wife, Miss Chris. She's been on there having some heart issues for a little while, but Ed is one of the new additions with his back problems. And then James McNally, Dirt Rooster's dad, Mr. Pat. The Sun Bunny, Miss Deb is on here. Bob's friend, Jason Cooper. Mr. Dan Weaver's family in Maui. And then Miss Grammy Lisa got her granddaughter and her son on here. And then Bob Walker and his family, especially him and his mama and his wife. And then Tom, the Mac Apiary Bees, our friend Mr. Donnie, and Tim Bailey, the Boone County beekeeper. Okay. Michael Tangway's wife, Miss Cindy. She was one of the good news updates, but she had surgery earlier this month, and he said the other day she was home and doing pretty good with her recovery. So we were really glad to hear that. And then we got all of our troops on here. Miss Carla Green, Larry Gandy's mom, she's been on here, but Mr. Larry and his wife Sherry are two more additions, but they both have the COVID bug and seem to be really not feeling good at all. Brian Castle Hive's family is still on here. DC's parents, that they just had a whole lot of stuff going on. James Knowles' family. Lee, he was sick again the other week. I hope he's feeling a little better by now, at least. But then also Lee's sister was having surgery coming up too. Donnie, I don't want to butcher your last name. Donnie Fixner's wife, Miss LaFay. David Hoskins, his granddaughter, is in the NICU. Said she's been in there since she come into this world in June. And then the Prince family. Did you?
I mentioned last week, but
okay. And then the other new addition is Honeystone Farm. he added his daughter Samantha to the list. Said they had gotten some, I guess, some bad news about something and needed some prayers. So y'all keep them in your prayers.
That's it, yeah.
And that's our prayer list.
Let's lift these folks up when you lay your head down. Thank the Lord for the days we've got.
Good deal, Lee. I'm glad you're feeling better.
Yes, sir. But prayer list is growing. There's a lot of needs, but the Lord can handle them every
really
one.
awesome updates.
Oh Lord, yeah. I mean, from Mark Miller to Miss Chris is getting better. Miss LaFaze, or
Miss Sandy,
Miss Cindy,
Mr. Mark.
several we're hearing good news too as well. So grateful for every bit of it. But now I'm gonna show y'all a little something too. She's been dabbling around in this thing, but y'all remember Mr. Donnie, the one that done the taste testing? What he got us some?
He surprised us.
Yeah. Beekeeping, a handbook on honey, hives, and helping the bees. Joachim Peterson.
Joaquin.
Huh?
I think it's Joaquin.
I just butchered that.
He sounded it out.
Anyway, some fella named Peterson wrote the book. What's this thing? What was you saying about it?
I'm not far into it at all yet, but it's about a man telling about his, I think he's from Sweden, or his family. Yeah, Sweden. But it's like his story of getting into beekeeping. I don't know if any of y'all have read it or not, but it seems pretty interesting. His grandpa was a beekeeper in Sweden, and he had some kind of big job that he did for a lot of years, but said he had a 10-foot fall and had pretty bad head trauma, and it took him months and months of rehab to get going again. But he got into beekeeping during that. And he wrote that book as just kind of like his story and what he's learned about beekeeping from his generations and stuff. So I was really excited to read it. I just hadn't had time to dive into it all the way yet.
Jasper looking for screen time. Oh, I about got off track.
He got his hair and makeup done. Yeah, that dog is pathetic. He can hear Bob Walker call Tim, and a lot of times Tim will put it on speakerphone, and we'll all kind of chit chat. Jasper can be snoring in that chair, and when he hears Bob's voice on that phone, he's in my lap thinking that camera's coming on.
Oh yeah, I don't know, he's figuring it out. We turn these chats on and he'll jump right up here. But he's trying now, but keep his tail over there in that other chair for a little bit. He about way too big for a laptop. Well, he is too big for a laptop now.
Yeah.
But before I get started on the yakking here, last week, if y'all was here, we was chit chatting about Allie Queen. Yep, the Allie method and the Allie's Queen and Drone trap, what it was. But we got it worked out, figured out. I think we can show y'all a couple of pictures. And there's the only thing I could find on YouTube was some dude did a video about 13 years ago on this particular trap. And that's the only thing I've been able to find on YouTube for somebody using this thing, the Allie's Queen and Drone trap. But kind of give y'all a visual whenever we was going through how Allie would take and make those slits and create those little portions for those queen cells. But that was our thumbnail for tonight's live, was how that's Allie's method, how he done things. But one of you, for the ones of you that was interested, let me see if I can turn myself off here a second. Did it go?
I don't know what you're trying to do.
I was trying to get on here to the pictures of it. Yeah. But
no,
it didn't work.
I'm sure everybody saw it.
Okay, y'all
We
seen
interrupt
that?
our program to bring you this important message.
Some scary moments for customers at a Kansas Home Depot. Police responded to reports of.
I need to quit hitting buttons, but
Too many buttons.
wow.
Okay, hold on. Let me get this here.
Yeah,
I think this
DC,
one
and
is
he's
it.
not even looking at what buttons he's hitting up there either.
Here we go. I think.
Oh my
Right.
word.
I can't do the pictures apparently. I don't know, but I'm gonna hit the videos and show y'all.
It said there goes the
Y'all bear with me. We'll see.
This is a swarm of bees on a small cabbage palm tree. I'm using this as a demonstration of a drone queen trap. I captured the swarm and put it inside the hive, installed the queen trap on. I allowed the bees to swarm when they realized that they had swarmed and left the queen back at the hive because she's trapped in this device. So the entire swarm turned around and came back, and this is pictures of them settling back on the trap where the queen is. Once all the swarm is gathered there around the trap, they can be easily collected again and placed back in the hive, and the entrance sealed, or you can transport them home this way and hive them when you get home. So that's how the device works.
Bingo. We made it through that one. All right. I think what he did was I tell you what, I'm not going to push any more buttons, y'all.
You do
Yeah.
what?
Philip saying the Home Depot one. That was an honest accident. I I didn't mean to hit that one and all, but it woke everybody up if anything else we got out of it. So we was yakking about Allie's method and how he was, he's doing his queen cells and how he believed they was making superior queens by doing this because the bees choosing and so on and so forth in another article. But I got to rummaging around trying to find something to jaw about tonight, and I typed in Allie's method again and see what else came up in the American Bee Journal. And what came up was, I think it's on this one. I better not lose that place either. But undoubtedly, even back in 1889, beekeepers making a fuss over what another beekeeper does. This dude, he was somebody from, I think it was Illinois. He didn't put a name, but it was in the 1889 American Bee Journal. Just type in Allie's queen and drone method, and it'll show you what page to go to. But there was drama back in the day. This old boy put a text message in the American Bee Journal that would make a little 16-year-old girl nowadays blush. I'm talking about. He went through agreeing with him for a second, then he was talking about, because apparently Mr. Alley questioned Dade Ant and Sons on how many employees they had. Mr. Alley was trying to say, hey, look, if you put my trap on here, you could cut down on at least half of the workforce for people getting out there and managing hives. Well, apparently that put a burr under somebody's saddle, and they didn't like them talking about Mr. Day and Sons. So he goes off on Mr. Alley, and that whole, I don't know, it's just about a whole page this dude wrote. But instead of reading all that and getting into more beekeeping, I guess, historical drama,
Historical drama.
yeah, I'm not
Yeah.
telling you, this dude was having a fit, y'all. He was using mile-long words, and when he finally got to the end of it, he was like, well, more or less to break it down, I just don't agree with you. I said, why didn't you say that from the beginning? You know, you didn't have to give me your whole spiel, but
Maybe he just like talking to people.
some people do like to talk
Mhm.
and hear themselves. And I believe that was one of these people. That's just my opinion.
Yeah.
But so I transitioned over to some winter stuff since we're getting into winter season. Most everybody, we all getting into winter. But I'm going to read. I'm gonna bounce through it because this one is a long article too. This is probably about a page and a half or 2 pages. But it's different opinions on whether to have pollen in the hive or not to have pollen in the hive during the winter months and feeding. Because apparently one guy thinks that they can do just fine with honey, and one other fella says, you know, they need the nutrients from the pollen as well to
Mhm.
continue to feed them whatever brood may be in there and so on and so forth. But where it all gets in, it kind of transitions over as well in the first article of the dysentery, but they continually say diarrhea in here is what they say in the article. But that's what got me messing around a little bit more, trying to figure out what others are saying. And that's where we'll jump over to the other. These are just the next portion I'll read will be just like notes from different beekeepers, big time beekeepers in the day. And like I said, the earliest one was from 1771 and it gets into the 1860s, but it starts getting into the foul broods
Mhm.
and the bees eating or not eating pollen causing foul brood, or is it something else in there? But here we go. American Bee Journal, volume 18, number 2. I believe this one is around 1889. But
Yeah.
yes,
Mr. Wade said, thanks, Tim. We're at the crossroads right now. Pollen and not pollen.
well, hey,
Get to us the topics.
maybe we get something out of it. If not, if y'all want to read this and read the full article, because it's kind of a rant too, if you will, but it's just 2 men's opinion on what to do or what not to do. And you'll get a little more clarity whenever we move over to the little documented historical notes, not full articles on things. But all right, the article, the headline of the article is Pollen in the Hive in Winter, Professor A.J. Cook. An articles written for other journals, and in my manual of the apiary, I have stated that the old bee can live for long periods without pollen. As honey, however, is a hydrocarbon and so contains no nitrogen, it is to be presumed that the old bees need and do eat some pollen during the active season to supply the waste of tissue. Consequent upon all physical activity I have further stated that pollen was an indisposable request to brood rearing, that it is an essential element in the food of larval bees. As does, what is that, scolium? Yeah, scolium. Under this last proposition, I have expressed the opinion that in some conditions, the presence of pollen in the hive in winter is a positive injury, and that in all cases it is unnecessary. But I will remark with emphasis that this pollen is more valuable as soon as the bees commence to fly the following spring, and then any frames that contain it should be given to the bees. These facts have lately been called into question by several writers. I think most of the critics object simply because they do not understand my position. One writer, however, who, whatever else may be said of him, puts forth very original ideas and contradicts nearly every well-grounded fact in apiculture, calls for proof. All right. Number one, he says, I have winterized bees on food which was made wholly from cane sugar and which I have analyzed and which gave no trace of nitrogen. This was fed on clean combs, which so far as we could see contained no trace of bee bread. New combs are so transparent that they cannot contain more than just the finest trace of pollen at the least without showing it. I have fed bees right in the busy season of the year this same kind of food and have seen them so shut up that they could get at no other, and that they have lived in this way for weeks and have built large combs and when given liberty were in good condition. It is impossible to prove that bees need and must have nitrogenous food when they are actively storing, but this position is sustained by all analogy. Then the second point, in the last experiments, the bees would have enough pollen in their stomachs and on their pollen baskets so that they would be quite a little bit, that they would put quite a little bit in the cells after first building the comb, and so would commence rearing brood, but the brood rearing would soon be discontinued. After the brood rearing had ceased, I could set it on to going at once by giving the bees a frame of bee bread. In such cases, we must not feed honey, as there is often quite little pollen in the nectar which the bees have brought to the hive. Some honey, as basswood, especially if you got that one tree, often contains quite a trace of this. This would give enough pollen to rear little brood. Again, for the several winters, I have practiced giving half our bees pollen and the other half frames with no pollen. In all cases, we have noticed that those without pollen would always be without brood in the spring, while in the other hives, we almost always found brood. Those without pollen would go to gathering very fast as they could to get pollen in the 1st of April, and would then, as soon as we would supply the lack of pollen in the hive, go rapidly to breeding. These last experiments have satisfied me that the bees are often better off. Okay, this dude says better off with no pollen in the winter. In the best condition, they will eat little or no pollen, as they breed very little, and in these circumstances, the presence of pollen would do no harm. So in just the bestseller or any condition where the bees are kept just right, no harm will result from the presence of pollen. In the south too, where the bees can fly out often, there is no danger from the presence of pollen in the hive. Here in the north, on the other hand, we often have a warm time in January and the bees, unless so protective that they do not feel the warmth, will commence breeding if they have pollen. They may get a large area of brood. Now, if there is no chance of them to fly, or if the weather becomes cold, they are injured by this activity which came. We may say, what
I was gonna say, you can slow down. There's a big old conversation in the chat.
on this?
Yeah,
Okay.
but Philip said, Ziggy said in his video that queen won't make winter bees if there's pollen coming into the pollen. And Brian said that's because the absence of pollen in the bee's diet is one of the triggers for the colony to start making winter bees. So, and then it just kind of went from there.
Okay. So,
I was like, well, but then Mr. Mark was saying down here, he feels like excessive pollen in the hive in the winter only takes away from room needed for eggs and fresh pollen coming in early spring to get the colony going.
so Mr. Mark basically saying, like he's saying, give it to them in the spring.
Mm-hmm.
They don't need anything through winter. Let them just get on down to, well, I guess, very little to no pollen in the wintertime. But then right at spring,
But I
give
mean,
it to 'em.
DC had a good point too. Where'd it go? Because the pollen is the protein, right? Honey's the carbs.
Mhm.
So he said, why wouldn't bees use the protein in winter, just much less to do less production and activity?
Seems like we got a pretty good conversation this evening.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Where are we at right there? All right. Now remember, because we'll get into this in the next portion on if the bees do go to eating, ingesting the pollen in the winter months. Just keep that in mind for the possibilities of ... Because it gets a little more interesting whenever we get to some of the notes of what there's the potential of and not potential of. What you hungry?
He said, Randy Oliver says bees in the summer will make flat body bees in response to a pollen dearth.
Okay. They say bees prefer fresh bee bread. Won't touch it if it's too old. All right, you keep on that. Let me mosey through this. How much time we got? Oh, we only 30 minutes. We got time, y'all. We got time.
Oh, God.
Yes, sir. She said I have to cut it at 2 hours though.
No, I just told him I can't do no 10 o'clock tonight. I'm going to be over here asleep.
Yeah, I told her. I said, folks are gonna be in the comments screaming at you. Wake up!
No.
Let me go back to see if I
I
can
thought
find
y'all would never let me let it down if I fell asleep to him reading the beach. I'm not going to push my luck.
Am I that boring?
No, it's really not. I'm just really tired.
Let's see. All right, we'll back up a little bit. Here in the north, on the other hand, we often have a warm time in January, and the bees, unless so protective that they do not feel the warmth, will commence breeding if they have pollen. What you got?
Brian made another good point. Are we talking winter in Alabama or winter in Minnesota? That's two totally different conversations.
You got me on that one there, Bubba.
Come on, buddy.
Whatever feels right to you. How about that?
Seriously.
Well, he does. Okay. Well, he does mention in here north and south a little bit of how our bees down here can pretty well just continuously fly for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
And y'all's have them short periods of, like, the further north you get, the shorter periods where they can and can't fly. Then I guess you start getting way up in the north states and on into Canada way up there, they're locked down for, a few months versus ours can just do whatever they want to. Now, if there's no chance of them to fly, or if the weather becomes cold, they are injured by this activity which came. They may say, as a result of the presence of the pollen, the next spring they are in feeble condition, and there is more of a tendency to dwindle away as the warm days incite them to fly forth. Go ahead.
Philip's picking on you.
If the bees can be kept perfectly quiet in winter, they eat nothing but honey and do not need to void their, I'm going to say, faces. With activity comes more food taken. Perhaps, too, they take some of the nitrogen food, and as a result, they become diseased and die. Okay, hold on to that. I have never found any support of the theory to the late Mr. Quimby. Hey, ain't that no, Lee is Quimby. They say this may be some of your people, Lee, but it's an N, not an M. That bees exert a dry powder in winter. The facts that I have observed in our colonies winterized with and without pollen have led me to the above theory. Okay. So we got a baseline where we're going. Now let me go back up here and see if I can find what they call them things? Cliff notes? Is that what you call it? What's a cliff note? Post-its? Whatever. Something. This here, all this I'm reading from y'all, if anybody's interested in going back and doing your own deal on it, I'm reading everything from the Cornell University. But what we're going into now is the Cornell University Library historical notes on the causes of bee disease. So,
Mr. Morris said early spring comb building is virtually non-existent, so lots of room is needed. Old pollen that time of year is wasted space. You pay for it.
it went away.
You go slow down buttons, get time to live.
I mean, I figured this should all been running. Y'all bear with me.
Hey, I'm
Table
going
count.
to put you in do that.
It's loaded. Says we do. Yeah, we got dial up. Historical notes on bee disease. I was trying to get right to the point on things. Are you serious? Okay. We're getting somewhere now. I'm going to read the first paragraph on the introduction. Historical notes on the causes of bee disease. Beekeepers, as a rule, manifest a keen desire to know about the cause of bee diseases, and they show a lively interest in investigations leading to the determination of the causes. This is gratifying to those working on these diseases and will be a great benefit to the apiarist who must treat the disease. The losses to apiculture from disease are numerous, and inasmuch as the successful treatment of a disease depends largely upon a knowledge of the cause of the disease and to be treated, it behooves every owner of the apiary to become as familiar as possible with the causes of bee disease. And it's got several more paragraphs on the introduction down through there. Okay, here we go. Uh, the facts that are known about the causes of bee diseases, unfortunately, are altogether too few. And just remember, this was back in
I was
1889.
gonna say at this point in
Yeah.
time.
As this can be said of all diseases affecting the animal kingdom, the beekeeper has no cause for despair. An attempt, however, will be made in this bulletin to furnish data from which the beekeeper may be able to inform himself concerning the facts that are really known about the causes of bee disease. All right, it gets into this introduction is a classification of these bee diseases. The first one, American foul brood. American foul brood is a very widely distributed disease and better known to beekeepers than European foul brood. It is the one which is generally referred to by the beekeeper as the present time when he speaks of foul brood. The brood affected with this disease is usually capped before it dies. The color of the dead brood presents in general various shades of brown. The marked roughness of the decaying remains of the dead larva is probably the most characteristic and well-known feature of the disease. The punctured cappings, the scales formed from dried down larvae, and the disagreeable odor sometimes present are aids to its diagnosis. The disease is clearly an infectious one. The exciting cause of it is a bacterium known as what in the word? Baculus. It's Latin. Baculus larvae.
Bacillus larvae.
Bacillus. That's why she's here to help me with these words, yeah.
I just can't read them from across the room.
Okay, so that's American foul brood. What is it? What'd you just say?
Bacillus larvae.
Bacillus larvae. Okay. New word.
Yeah.
I'll forget that in the next few minutes. Now we moseying down to European foul brood. European foul brood is the disease which Cheshire, and Shine describe in their studies of foul brood. Howard, page 44 of Texas, made a very brief and unsatisfactory study of this disease at one time and named it New York bee disease or black brood. We are strongly inclined to believe that the Burr was working with this disease for the most part during his study of the condition, which he refers to as sour brood. European foul brood is less widely distributed in this country than American foul brood. In European foul brood, one finds as a rule most of the disease brood is yet uncapped. In general, the brood dead of this disease presents various shades of yellow. So American foul brood, they're capped and they're a brownish look. European foul brood, they're uncapped and they're a yellowish, various shades of yellow. Usually there is no roughness. At times, however, there is. That degree of roughness, however, which is so characteristic of American foul brood, is seldom present in European foul brood. There is frequently a slightly sour odor to the diseased brood. Where am I at? The rapidness in which this disease spreads in a new territory and the marked destructiveness of it are features of which most beekeepers have experienced who have been so unfortunate as to have madly affected their apiary. The disease is clearly, therefore, an infectious one. The exciting cause is not known. Claims are made by some that certain species of bacteria stand in direct some kind of ology relation to the disease, but satisfactory evidence to prove such contentions are waiting. All right, that's the European foul brood. Yeah. So, okay, then we'll get in. Anybody wants to come in, y'all give us your deal on what's happening in here real quick. All right, Carl, appreciate you coming in, brother. All right, Mr. Mark saying always do the rope test. Okay. Now we're getting into this. They got in quotations the so-called pickle brood. Howard of Texas described what he chose to call pickle brood. His findings have never been confirmed. The name pickle brood, however, is very frequently used by beekeepers in referring to a disease condition of brood. Howard's description of pickle brood, however, does not apply to such a condition, since the name of pickle brood is not accurately applied and is, moreover, entirely inappropriate for the condition for we find. We prefer for the present to use the expression so-called pickle brood. In this condition, the brood dies about the time of capping. The body wall of the larva in the case in which may be called typical is intact and rather tough. When this wall is broken, often one finds a watery content in which suspended a granule substance. As a rule, a very small proportion of the brood is affected. The disease does not seem to be infectious. The loss of the colony is comparison with European foul brood and American foul brood is sight. This disorder, however, should arouse no great amount of fear, while the number of colonies lost from this disease is comparatively small. Okay, so where we go? American cap brown. The European uncapped yellow with some roping. Then the so-called pickle brood is where, from what I guess I'm picking up out of here, is it's halfway cap, and the body wall of the larva in the case, which might be typical, and it breaks down to some type of watery substance into a granule substance. But now let me get in here to some of the notes. These was pretty interesting. Well, here's some causes from the foul broods, whether it's American foul brood, anything like that. Paralysis. But a little bit is definitely known about the paralysis of the bees. The disease has not been demonstrated to be infectious. Many suppositions have been made by different writers as to the case of the trouble, but no satisfactory evidence has been produced to prove the case. Dysentery, a condition known as dysentery, has often been observed by the beekeeper, but little is known about the disorder. There is considerable evidence that the nature of the winter food plays a part in its congestion. It's got, let's see, one more down through here and it gets into the notes. Then Isle of Wight disease. This disorder, known as Isle of Wight disease, was first reported from the Isle of Wight by, I'm going to say the dude's name is Amos Malden. Reports that the disease has more recently spread to mainland. This disorder has so far not been found in any other country. The cause has not been definitely established. It is urged that the reader pause the preference to this bulletin carefully. By doing the intent of the writers of this bulletin will be better understood and the chances of misinterpretation will be lessened. So it didn't give really any information on what the Isle of Brood or the Isle of Wight disease is, but okay. Check out what y'all got and see what y'all doing in this chat real quick. Mm-hmm. Brian, I don't know. I don't know if we tried to give him pickles or not. That Joker, he was loving some popcorn a while ago. Oh yeah, he knows. Look at it. Sorry, Joker. Jasper, you want? Here she comes. You better get your butt down.
He's keeping the spot on.
Well, it's gone from the Pollen to Jasper taking over your chair there. Okay. I'm gonna get back on this.
Yeah.
Soda foul broods.
You got some room there, mister?
Some cat in 1771 classified the diseases which most frequently attack bees as follows: dysentery, disease of the antennae, foul brood, queens laying drone eggs only, sterile queen, and queenless colonies.
Jasper's giving us the side eye. What is this one? Jasper doesn't care for pickles?
The pickle brood again.
Dog has sinners.
Yeah. He's taking it over.
Golly, Jasper has just taken over our popularity aspect of our YouTube channel.
I told her we need to get one. He's been tearing his blankets up. Yeah. All right. So I figured out the other day, whatever he's been tearing up, I've been shaming him about it. You know, what's wrong with you, Jasper? And just no and the whole everything. So the last couple of days we put him in his pen, he ain't tore his blanket up. Well, he had some stuff tucked away, I guess, somewhere under the blanket, what have you. Well, he started dragging it out, I think, this morning. And she picked it up. And I told her, I said, shame him, you know. So she went to getting on to him, shaming him, and his ears went back, and he gave us that sideways look right there.
His heart. He went and hid in the corner. I felt terrible. You can go back to your pickle brood now,
Okay.
or whatever it is.
Dysentery he considered to be dietary in origin. No belief is expressed as the cause of the disease of the antenna to which he refers, but he states that with the disease the danger is not great. The disease which he designates as foul brood, however, he believed to be quite dangerous, very fatal, and a true pest after it has reached a certain stage. To this condition, he attributed two causes, one being ascribed to the improper food which was consumed by the larva, and the other being a fault of the queen in permitting the brood to be so arranged in the cells that the heads point inward. Considering these two widely different causes ascribed to an abnormality in the brood, one might suspect that there was more than one disease in the condition which he designated as foul brood. That part of the disease condition to which, as cause, as ascribed the food, could well be an infectious disease, either American foul brood, European foul brood, or European foul brood, the other form of disease in which the brood was supposed to be placed with the head directed inward, most probably was not an infectious disease. Okay, now we're going to get into the notes finally. Mr. Lockhart, November 12, 1860. Lockhart had entertained the opinion that infectious foul brood was due to a fungus, and he felt that his view was strengthened by some work which was done on the disease of the silkworm. During the summer of 1860, however, he had an opportunity to see much infectious foul brood in samples of comb and in colonies. In the diseased material, he found no fungi that he could not attribute to the phenomenon of decay. He states in the paper that foul brood is obviously a collective name that includes various forms of disease with the features in common of being epidemic, attacking early stages, and being usually fatal. One sample was examined, and a number of diseases and dead larvae was found to contain an unidentified fungus. The majority of them, however, did not contain the fungus, yet the latter larvae were thought to be dying of an unusual type of foul brood. From this summer's experience, Lockhart arrived to the conclusion that the infectious foul brood was not due to a fungus. All right, that's his opinion in 1860. Then Malator Molefield in 1868 reported some startling observations relative to the cause of foul brood. He writes that foul brood is of two kinds. The mold kind and the so-called infectious are viral one. The mold from foul brood, according to his views, result from a chilling of the brood. During the early warm days of spring, he argues brood rearing is stimulated to such an extent that when the colder weather follows, it is impossible for the bees to take care of all the brood, and as a result, the neglected brood is chilled and dies and becomes foul. From this condition, this author stated no danger is to be feared, as the bees afterward remove all this dead brood, leaving the colony free from danger. The cause of the viral form of the foul brood is attributed by Molitor Molefield to some small parasitic fly. Apparently, this little fly is reddish yellow in color and 1/6 of an inch long, to which he gave the name. I'm not even going to try that Latin stuff. You do it.
Ichneumon apium mellificarium.
Okay,
Mellificarium.
y'all got that. We'll call it the IAM. I am. All right. He writes that this fly had already been observed about foul brood colonies by another writer, but that is, it was thought to be a carrion fly. Concerning the life history of these flies, he says that they press into the hives, lay their eggs in the bee larva. The larvae live in spite of this until the cell is capped and the cocoon is spun. During this time, the fly larvae feed upon the fat of the bee larva and finally bore their way into the body of the cell, undergo metamorphosis, and in a few days escape from the cells through openings which they make in the center of the cell capping. These young adult flies now mate, sting other bee larvae, lay their eggs, and continue the cycle. The time which elapsed from the egg of this parasitic insect to the adult is given about from 10 to 12 days. This, to his mind, explained the rapid increase of the exciting cause of the foul brood. As a result of the parasitic existence of this fly in the bee larva, The larvae die and change into a ropey, sticky, ill-smelling mass which the bees cannot remove. Furthermore, he argues that if instead of the disease larvae dying, as they do after capping, they should die before the stage was reached, when the dead bodies will be removed early, and with them, the larvae of the fly. But since the brood is always capped before death takes place, the capped cells afford a protection for a parasitic insect until it becomes an adult ready to emerge. So, where we go? We've been from flies to fungus.
Brian said there's lots of rumors going around now about a resistant strain of European foul brood. He said that Megan Milbrath and Bob Benny have both talked about it a little bit.
A new variant.
Yeah, like a resistant, like it's resisting the typical treatments.
Some of the treatments that are in the Bee Journal, which I know, like I said, this is 1800, y'all, and I know there's different ways of doing it, but apparently back in the old timey days when they was dealing with this, they would pull everything out of that colony and just take and put brand new frame or whatever they had, frames and all that back into that colony and basically let them start over. Or you can put some stuff in, borrow from one to give them a boost, whatever the case may be. But undoubtedly they removed everything out of there. In the articles that I've read on here, 2 or 3 different ones, basically they said by doing that they didn't have any further issue. But take that with a grain of salt, do your own research if this is something you're dealing with along those lines, what the best thing to do. But oftentimes, all I hear is pour some gas to it and put a match on it.
Philip said a shook swarm.
A shook swarm?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, I guess that'll be just plopping everybody back down there to as if they swarm, I reckon.
Mm-hmm.
Here's you some new stuff, lady. Get after it. Let me run this down through here, see what them other ones was. Like I said, so we went from fungi to a fly, and one of the last ones was we had read, I think, in the journal a few chats back, but was saying like another theory they had on the foul brood was during the winter season when the winter bees, your summer bees and all that are dying off, and you get your winter bees. Well, whenever they're hemmed up in them boxes and can't get out and fly, your workers or your guards, what have you, they can't be dragging bodies out because there's just so many,
Mm-hmm.
and they're clustered up too. So some of them was saying as well that their theory of having a whole bunch of dead bees in the bottom of your box, the decaying, so on and so forth, was creating disease during decomposition, and the bees come walking across are catching different infections or viruses.
Mr. Dan said it sounds like he was dealing with American foul brood and blaming a fly for it.
It's your fault.
Yeah, but Brian said you were right. A shook swarm shakes all the bees off their old home onto a new foundation.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this then, because before I figured out about this fly, Mr. Dan, you mentioning that made me kind of think of this, but is it possible that's where that little hole comes from, that fly chewing out whenever they say, okay, look, if you got holes in your cappings, could it be that fly? Because nothing else will be coming out. Because if you had a viral or infection inside that cell, that would just sit in there. and create more problems, I guess. If any of y'all know that, and if I didn't confuse you, help me out on that. Let's see if I can find a smaller one. There's several other long articles in here.
I see.
Okay, here we go. We got something about some caterpillars. Back up. This is kind of long, so okay. We still, how much time we got? Oh, we got 50 minutes. 50 minutes, y'all. I'll shut up then. Maybe we get somebody come in here. Okay. Pierce's, October 1st, 1868. All this is on the same historical notes as you scroll down. But in a paper written by this cat in 1868, his views on the causes of foul brood are given. The distinction which he would make between mild and variant foul brood is that the viral foul brood is caused by a fungus, which he named something, and that the mild foul brood is due to some other cause. Okay, so if I confused you on that, I can't spit out there. Y'all be laughing your tails off whatever I come off with this Latin word, but the variant of foul brood is caused by a fungus which is named Chiro something, and that the mild foul brood is due to some other cause. His conclusion concerning the viral foul brood was reached through a microscopic study of the foul brood material. Presses had been somewhat familiar with beekeeping since early boyhood and had the opportunity to visit numerous apiaries in the Vistula Valley, but had not encountered foul brood until 1866, when a friend had called his attention to the disease in an apiary of the latter, in which he was using as diazoron hives. But
Mr. Dan Weaver said, remember, the American foul brood wasn't isolated from foul brood until the 1910s. They were all considered the same. Thing.
Everybody called it foul brood.
Yeah.
Okay.
American foul brood came into play after 1910, apparently.
They said, we're going to have our own. America. You know what I mean? We're going to have a foul, we'll have our own.
You can't think.
Let me get back to this. His conclusion concerning the variant foul brood was reached through a microscopic study of foul brood material. Presses had been somewhat familiar with beekeeping since early boyhood and had the opportunity to visit numerous apiaries in Vistula Valley, but had not encountered foul brood until 1866, when a friend had called his attention to the disease in an apiary of the latter, in which he was using the Dazarian hives. Presses immediately undertook the investigation of the character of the disease by studying microscopically the larva which had died of the disease. A small, I heard you take a deep breath.
The word, the how you teach them.
Right there.
I think that's Cyrus.
We're going with what it is. A small bit of the dead larva was added to a little water covered with a glass and studied in the fresh condition. Numerous spherical bodies measuring, I guess, 2 inches in diameter. There ain't no, hey, that's a big old bee. There ain't no 2-inch diameter. I don't know. It's a little diameter, I guess. We're seen and identified by him as belonging to the genus Crypto something, to which he gave the name. Larger objects which were present were recognized as fat bodies. Very, very nearly related to this organism, Presses writes, is a fungus that causes fermentation. It was his belief that if the latter species infected or fell upon a larva, it might, under favored temperature and moisture conditions, change into the crypto, whatever it is, and in this way produce foul brood. Practical beekeepers had prior to, at this time, emphasized the danger of foul brood transmission by the feeding of fermented honey. One beekeeper of large experience had attributed foul brood to meal feeding, and since meal is good medium for the growth of fungi, Presses was inclined to favor the view. But he argued that since the fungus of fermentation is widespread in nature, the brood dying from cold or neglect of any kind may constitute a fruitful soil in which this fungus could grow and thus become the cause of infectious foul brood. Medication in the treatment of disease, Presses held to be quackery and recommends instead the removal of the disease frames from the hive, but not the destruction of the hive. The hive were to be washed with 10% sulfuric acid, followed by water, and afterwards put into an oven and heated to a boiling temperature for some hours. The frame containing diseased material were to be burned, and those frames which were free from such materials were to be used again. All dead bees were to be buried, as they might become a source of fungus growth, and the ground in front of the hives was to be sprinkled with sulfuric acid and then dug up deeply. So, y'all go into your shed, get your sulfuric acid out, a little bit of water, clean them right up, then burn whatever else.
Philip said American foul brood ran off to Canada during the Vietnam War.
I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it. Let's see what else. Yeah, I'm trying to find some smaller articles in here. No, I mean, if anybody wants to come in, I'll shut up and we can chat about this. I'm just chit chatting about what we got on here. Yeah. Y'all come on, give me your opinion on it.
Brian said I just ran out of sulfuric acid.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll wrap it up on that. So we went from pollen to is it good to yay or nay on the pollen during winter feeding. And apparently it's not a real good idea from their opinion. And it seems to be like most majority in the comments.
That's why they don't allow American bees into Canada to this day.
Who's that? That's got to be Canadian saying that.
That's what Philip said.
Listen to him.
Because American foul brood ran to Canada
Oh.
during Vietnam. That's a good question, though, JC. I have no idea.
I don't know. Yeah, they would be a good question if there's anybody outside the States and Canada. Let us know.
I saw Ian come in for a second. I don't know if he's saying.
What got me to thinking on that, one of the other articles was talking about the dysentery or dealing with nosema. And it got into the bees going in, taking a certain amount of that pollen, we'll say in the winter season, down here, we'll use our region. The queens are pretty well going to have a small patch of brood all the way into spring. Well, whenever they're doing the feeding, their theory was that whenever the worker bees or the nurse bees would get that little bit of pollen, ingest it, take it over to the brood chamber, feed the larvae, that so much of that pollen, yes, would go to the larva for feeding, but yet there's still going to be so much remaining inside the bee. And that will be taken down through the digestive system and be placed into the digestive system until the bees can go out for a cleansing flight. But down here, pretty much our bees can, I guess, if you will, if y'all want to eat whatever you want to eat, because y'all can come outside and do a cleansing flight for the most part all season. But then whenever you get up in the north to where snow, they're locked in for days upon days on end, can't get out. Or if you're in Brad, Ian, or James's situation to where you're having to take your bees, store them in-house until the season, that the bees were kind of getting not really impacted, but they're beginning to have that old pollen in them that they cannot get rid of. So them not being able to get rid of the pollen by going to the bathroom, end result will give them upset stomachs and cause not a normal bathroom routine, if you will. I'm trying to keep this as clean as I can.
You getting some encouraging comments.
Hmm.
Keep it rolling.
Okay. Well, we'll keep on with it. Let me run it back around here.
See what else you can find.
We can find something in here. Ain't my Wi-Fi still going? Yeah. Okay. We can continue.
How often is optimal for a bee to crowd? Once every 3 days or 2 or 5?
I guess
This is going to become an interesting conversation.
Whatever your body is, I guess, because it could be like people. Some people go right after that cup of coffee first thing in the morning, and some people have an extended period of time before they go. It may be a day or two, but it could be considered, I guess, normal for, how we gonna say, gestation?
No, dear, that's
Digestation.
pregnancy. Digestion.
Digestion
My God,
to run through.
Gestation.
And that'll be on queen rearing.
Oh, Lord.
Anything, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
That's what I got.
Dixie said his bees get out at least once a week. Oh, man. I don't know.
Hey, Grayson, appreciate you coming in, bud.
Yeah.
Tell Vincent he did good coming in and getting first place, or
Mhm.
getting first in the chat. He slid right on in and said, I'm going to beat DC tonight.
He beat everybody.
You done good, buddy. Made a smile on that. Okay. Where are we going? Let me find a index, table of contents, or whatever you want to call the thing. Wait. Switcher.
Mr. Dan said in 12 years of overwintering in Pennsylvania, I've never had a dysentery issue.
Now, how was y'all's winters up that way? Are y'all kind of, I guess, midway as far as being locked in with snow at certain points of the year? Or y'all kind of, it's cold, but you get somewhat of a mild winter? Let me,
He's way up Pennsylvania, though, isn't he? Like up by Gettysburg?
I think so. Yeah, he said they wasn't too far at all from Gettysburg. Or if we ever got up that way, we can visit them in Gettysburg. Or they meet us, whatever I'm trying to say here. All right, let me get him a bookmark. I guess I could have went all the way through the argument between old Allie and Day Danton son.
Hmm.
Apparently, a Day Danton's been around for a while. 1800s and what they still going nowadays.
Yeah.
Okay, back up here. I'll give y'all some. Why is it not doing what I want it to do? I don't want to do that.
He said it's locked in here and there. There used to be solid snow 2 or 3 months of the year. I wonder if it has to do with, well, but I mean, you don't hear James or any of them talking about they have issues with it either, and their bees are locked up for months.
Mhm. The only ones that I guess I can recall seeing way up in North Country, if I remember right, early in the season, coming into spring, Ian was dealing with some of the nosema, he believed, up there.
Mm.
But I'm not sure what their distance is between Canada Brad and James. Or I think ain't Ziggy in here, ain't even Ziggy up that way.
I haven't seen him this evening. Stuffy just came in.
All right, let's see here. Give me my picture. Be your own doctor. There's an ad to be your own doctor in here. I'm waiting for it to give me a deal, y'all. Back up. What's in the comment going on? Everybody.
He said Brad in Canada had huge nosema issues this past year too.
All right, we can get this one to load. This one will be from 1894. So we went from 1889, I think, 1894, as it just slowly loads. I'll take it here.
Mm-hmm.
What's a? Never mind.
Yeah.
I was gonna say what's a topic or an old, but I'm just gonna go straight to the website and we'll just pick whatever comes up. And like, yeah, there we go. We get somewhere now, people.
Articles.
All right. We just did pollen in the hive in winter. Damage done by skunks to bees.
Mm.
Uh,
Mm.
now let me just run. Let me click on see what's in there. This would be from 1882. We can get everything loaded right.
Mr. Dan said the ash in the goldenrod and asters seem to affect the dysentery. That's pretty interesting.
So they got him some medicine. Help straighten his stomach.
Natural, yeah.
Got him some Pepto.
I reckon.
Y'all go out there and get me a little bit of aster and whatever.
He said
Goldenrod.
it's the ash in the goldenrod and asters.
I mean, there's bound. I guess when it really comes down to it, y'all, a lot of it, we have no idea, for the most part, what them bees are really needing until it gets to a point of stress.
Mm.
You know, we got colony collapse of some sort or bowel brood or whatever the case may be. But oftentimes, if we just sit back and pay it, this is just my opinion, but sit back and pay a little bit more attention to the bees, they know what they're doing out there. they really don't need our help for the most part. Because you think about all the feral colonies out in the wild, ain't nobody out there tending to them bees. And I mean, there's proof all over YouTube, people doing cutouts of feral colonies. Some of these colonies, are 6, 8 foot long, 3 and 4 foot wide, and just stacked with tens of thousands of bees in there. And they're thriving and doing well. How are they doing it without nobody tending to them? Versus us as the beekeeper going, okay, what do I need to do to keep this colony healthy? Well, can a lot of that be just letting the bees do what they do? Now, I understand whenever it comes time, you got to do treatments for things and knock the pests down and keep the critters out along those lines. But for the most part, let the bees do what they're going to do. They know what's good for them. They know what sources is going to provide the best food for them. They out there picking through the good stuff just the same as we would. We're not going to pick up a batch of sour grapes at the grocery store. We're going to fumble through and say, okay, look, this looks like the best bunch we got here. All right, wait, we got a fella knocking on the door here, one of them Texicans.
I thought you were tied up, Philip.
Hold on, we got to turn the volume up on our end.
Is that better?
We're
Hello,
getting
hello.
there. You go. There you go.
There we go. All right. I don't know if anybody wants that image. I was trying to get cleaned up. I hadn't bathed since yesterday morning, so y'all don't need to be thinking about that. Way I'm listening to you guys.
Come on, Sal.
But you asked, so I guess I had to come
Yeah.
clean.
Well, there you go.
I had to come clean, literally come clean. All right. I like the bee journal stuff, man. That's what I said. That's why I wanted to put it on the prayer list so we can keep it. He missed that part, didn't he?
Yeah. He was already into something when I saw that comment. I don't know if I showed it to you or not.
I heard a couple of
Made me laugh.
her wanting to say something, then she.
Let him go. He's on a roll.
I said, can we put Button's bee journal segment on the prayer list? That's what I said.
Ain't that especially for these Latin words? My heaven! Imagine speaking Latin as a Southerner. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
You ain't gonna get no language out of that.
Yeah, I get. The kids nowadays can take Latin in the schools, but and I think they take it if they're going into like the medical fields. They take it to be able to pronounce all those because almost all those medical terms are Latin.
Yeah, I feel that. Look,
I don't know. I don't know how other people feel, but anytime somebody calls a beekeeper and I can't even say it, apiarist. I just don't feel like that includes me. I'm too country for that.
Don't call me something I can't even pronounce.
Exactly. I can't tell somebody I'm something if I can't
pronounce. I'm a beekeeper. I'm gonna keep it simple.
Yeah. I even call mine the bee. I call mine bee yards. I can't even say apiary. I can't even call it that with a straight face. So
I'm with you on that. I just kind of go, look, hey, we got them bees out there. That's about the extent of it. Because you go to putting off February to the most, anybody ain't never kept them. They're like, what are you talking about? Some people know what you're talking about, but for the most part, folks look at you with that, dumb look.
Yeah. One thing you were talking about, I know we got into a pretty good discussion about pollen and the quality of pollen and should you have it and should you not have it and how much should you have and all that stuff. That's kind of interesting to me, but the thing that I'm struggling with now because I'm in like my 3.5 year. I got bees in 2020 half the year. And some of those first colonies I bought, some of that comb was already old when I bought those hives. And I've seen where people say you should cull it, and people mark it. I'm never gonna mark my frames like that with the year and all that nonsense. But what I'm thinking about doing this year, since I got enough colonies to do it, is just shake out two of the really old ones that I know are old, let them fly back in and rebuild and see what they do, because they just haven't. The comb in there looks so dark and black, and the holes are tiny, and I just think it'd be kind of a restart for them. So we'll see how it works.
Well, it sure can't hurt. And just,
I mean, I've
I
been
know,
watching videos of people doing it, and almost everybody says it's a nice reset, and they say at the very least, the second year after they do shook swarm, they make a lot more honey. But Lawrence what's that? He's in Wales. Lawrence, what is that guy's name? He's shaking out some of his entire yards and doing them that way. He had a video on that this last week.
and just having to rebuild new comb.
Yeah, he's going into a couple of different yards and just shaking them all out. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do a couple of colonies and see how it goes. Maybe it is something that I work into a rotation, but boy, it's hard for me. They got a little bit of resource on this one. They get a little bit of nectar. You just can't, or they got a little bit of brood. You just can't. It's hard to make yourself do stuff like that.
Now, I don't know as far as the brood portion, but watching like some of Mr. Ed's videos, I know for his honey supers and things, he just had, all brand new girls. Y'all build brand new comb
Right.
every year.
He did that 2 years ago. I don't know that he did that this past year. But
Mm.
2 years ago, I remember if it ever had any brood at all in it, he was telling them, take it out of the rotation. But of course, this past year, he didn't make very much honey either. But that had to do with the freeze more than it did. But if you did that, if you had to make them draw all new comb every year, boy, that would cut way into your honey production. Because I didn't make any honey at all the first year. I didn't make honey because they didn't have any comb. The second year was a drought. And then when I finally started getting some comb, that's when I started making honey. So it's got to be pretty bad looking before I pull it out of the honeycomb rotation.
Yeah.
Well,
Something
this
like
year kind of put that on us on things. We've talked all season about what not a good year it was, but really kind of hesitant on should we put out as much as we did last year to see if they're gonna kick off that good, or just try it out. Let's see if we're gonna have a repeat of this year. But I'm really hoping all of us to get back onto a good season and won't get knocked out by another freeze.
Yeah, I don't know how that freeze missed us, because it it got South Louisiana and it got you guys, but it really didn't hit us. I don't know how that happened, because usually our weather goes into Louisiana. It comes in from the kind of northwest and sweeps down. But yeah, I don't know how we lucked out and missed that. I'm glad we did, but yeah, we didn't have that late freeze like that.
Well, even the blooms on the popcorn tree or tallow, where we was working the past week or so, we was in the middle of a big old open field, but everything was bordered by woodland. And it was pretty seeing the popcorn trees turning color and all that, but usually you've got that pretty white little flower cluster that comes off of it, and that's where we call it looks like popcorn that has popped whenever it makes that flower on there. And even all the trees that was out where we were, and even up here by the house, and this was 44 miles from the house, very, very little of the floral come off of them any of the popcorn trees this year. And usually whenever you see them, you'll say, oh, they look so pretty coming into fall and this and that. But I mean, they just look dried up, the best way I can explain what they look like. There was no kind of fullness to them like there typically is, and very, very little on the trees.
So is that tree, it blooms in the summer, or is that?
It'll bloom. It'll put the tassels off late spring, early summer. It'll start putting off the tassels where we get the flow. Then, as you're going into the winter months or in the fall, is whenever it'll start making that little seed pod or flower, if you will. And around about this time of the year, it'll open up into a pretty white little floral.
Oh, okay.
But I don't believe they get, the only thing that they gain the nectar off of is the tassels in the spring. And what comes in the winter is just more of a pretty from the tree.
Oh, okay. So so is it a cottony substance, or is it
It's
or
more of like a,
it's not like a cottonwood tree, is it?
no, I'm trying to, best way to explain it. You know how you got an old green bean pod?
Yeah.
All right. Well, they feel like that in texture, but there'll be just 3 little points on each one.
Mm.
And each one of them's got that little bean, if you will, that's inside of it. Then as it matures into the season, that's what'll turn into the little flower, or, popcorn, whatever it is that comes off of it. But it makes a pretty white little deal that comes off of it. But
So you think it probably didn't get pollinated in the spring is why it probably looks so ragged because of the freeze.
yeah, because
but Lee said it's wax. They can make candles out of them.
okay, I know, like Lee's saying it's a waxy light, and he's saying they make candles out of it. And I do know that some people that's in the florist business,
Mm-hmm.
they'll hire people at certain times of the year to go around and say, hey, such and such has got some popcorn trees out there, and if they're fixing to bloom, I'll pay you so much to bring them in, because they'll put them in little bouquets and flower arrangements and things like that too.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm gonna probably say that due to the poor pollination and everything earlier in the season, and the freeze putting everything in a bind, ended up being a result of just a poor floral.
So do you think that's that bad spring is what hit you or do you think it was the hive beetles, or you think the hive beetles were a result of the poor spring, or what do you think?
I think it was definitely at least a little bit of each.
Yeah.
I mean, the weird spring, especially that late freeze, it butchered the flow down here.
Because even we'll take and we'll get on the privet kind of to start with,
Mm-hmm.
and the privet was looking good. It was blooming everywhere, and privet is around here very invasive, but yet it's beneficial for us doing this beekeeping stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know. I actually cut down a little privet bush at my farm today. I was clearing some, and I'm like, I don't care if it's good for bees. I don't want that shit taken over. I'm killing that as quick as I can.
No, Lord, no, you don't.
There's a scout camp in South Dallas that I go to, and you can't even walk through the woods because it's just thick. That privet's it's crazy. But I am going to try to talk to the ranger and let me put some bees down there because I want to.
Yeah, you might as well benefit
Right.
from it.
Oh yeah, it's covered. They battle that stuff all the time.
I mean, that's the way it was in our backyard. I mean, we cleared out for a year and a half privet and wild scopa 9.
Yeah.
but that was our main thicket down here. And just tell you how invasive and quick it'll go. You can drop a little old twig, a couple inches long,
Mm-hmm.
and just drop it on the ground. Give it a few months to go over there and pull on it, and
It'll
it'll be
root.
then rooted.
It'll have a foot long root going straight in the ground.
Yeah, yeah. They
It's
mow it down, and
insane.
those little sharp sticks, they'll stick to the bottom of your tent.
Mm-hmm.
And I was at doing some training, and they were getting ready to roast marshmallows to have s'mores. And I walked off in the woods. In Scouts they tell you not to cut down any live trees. That's one of the kind of tenets that they talk about. I walked into the woods and I cut me off one of the privet branches, made a perfect marshmallow stick because they got a nice smooth straight
Mhm.
limbs on them. I
Yeah.
cut one of them off, and one of the adults looked at me. One of the people in charge looked at me and said, "Did you just go into the woods and cut a live plant?" I said, "Look, dude, this shit's everywhere. There ain't nothing hurt here." I said, "We're gonna be cutting this stuff down tomorrow as part of our service project." So,
Oh my God.
It's
I promise I didn't hurt that bush taking one little twig
uh,
off of it.
Lord no. And it don't matter how young that stuff is. You can cut it right on down to the ground,
yeah,
and just within a week or two, boop, it'll have brand new green on it. And if you give it all season, that stuff can grow easily a good couple of feet.
uh-huh.
Especially if it's got good sunlight, it may grow to 3 to 4 feet in a year.
It's
Yeah.
aggravating. That's for sure.
The thing that I have that I can't stand is I have black locust. And it's got those thorns on it that'll put holes in tractor tires. I mean, they're crazy. But when you cut one of those down, every root that it has will start putting up shoots. Go into survival mode, and they just start sprouting up everywhere. But I did find the bees working the black locust this spring.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, it's not. I'm sorry, I'm saying that wrong. It's a honey locust. I have a honey locust. I don't think the black locust has a thorn. The honey locust has a thorn. But I think the black locust is a better nectar source than the honey locust.
Yeah, Mr. Dan Weaver gets the black locust honey.
Yeah, mine's not black. It's a honey locust. I misstated on that.
Brian said you compromised your values for a marshmallow by breaking that privet bush.
I actually, when I was cutting it, Brian, I said, "Die, you son of a bitch."
Oh, man. Yeah, Mr. Dan said he has the black locust and it does not have thorns on it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, the honey locust has thorns. I mean serious thorns. If you think of the crown of thorns that Jesus wore, that's what it looks like. It's
nasty.
they look like nails. They branch out,
Oh.
all over. And yeah.
Look at that. Well, your daddy's got something like that next door. We couldn't figure out if it was like what is a hawthorn that's got them big stickers on them too.
Yeah, I don't know. It's what I think of when we was kids. They would say, "You would rather climb a thorn tree naked than mess with me." That old saying. That's what I think. Those things have on the. If you disturb the bark at all, it'll just start putting those stickers off the trunk of it all the way up. Now the birds love it because they can fly in there and build a nest, and nothing can mess with them. Nothing can climb up in there.
All right, it ain't gonna be this then. This what just popped up over there, her daddy's place. This is more like a bush, I guess, but it's got, buddy, some thorns on that rascal. I don't know what it is, but you don't want to get in it.
Yeah, I'm pulling them out of my boots all the time. They'll go all the way through my boots.
He said it's the hawthorn that have the seeds on it.
Okay. I will tell y'all one time. You know them old century plants? Big old century plant. They look like ginormous aloe vera plant is the best way to explain them. I mean, they get huge. Well, they're basically the same way. They got little bitty. Well, I say little bitty. The ones I got into were big because these plants were about 6 foot tall and probably circumference was just about the same. But there was a traffic accident one day and we had to call a helicopter. And where I was, it was my job at the time to land the helicopter while everybody else is doing the scene. So I'm not paying attention. I'm doing all these air traffic control moves, helicopter come down, move right, all this. Well, as I'm backing up, getting away from the aircraft and they're coming down, I wasn't paying attention what was behind me. And brother, I rolled right off into that joker back first and went smack dab in the center of that big old.
Painful.
Oh, it was painful. Every one of them little barbs stuck in my back. Whoever was on the helicopter probably got a heck of a laugh out of watching me do that crap, do a backflip over the thing, trying to direct them.
Yeah. They were probably screaming, "Watch out!"
They should have got on the intercom. Watch out! Watch out!
Yeah.
Yeah, I got a good laugh out of it. Finally, after I got over the embarrassment of everything.
It was cute.
Yeah. She laughed real hard about that.
Hey, look, there's been plenty of times I've busted my butt and he's laughed at me. So that definitely goes both ways in this relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's the true test of whether you're old or not. If you fall down in front of your friends, if they laugh at you, you're still young. But if they run over and see if you're okay, that means you're old.
Yeah. Well, nobody ran to me.
That's the true test.
You should feel good.
I'm right on that borderline right now. I'm hanging on.
Yeah. I don't know. I kind of got myself checked the other day with it. My little 6-year-old nephew we talk about all the time, Ollie, he got me. Oh my gosh. It was like 7 o'clock the other morning, and he had already downed a big old cup of chocolate milk. I mean, hot chocolate. The dude was wired. And I was joking with him. I told him, I was like, you know what we need? That Handy Boo might just get us one for Christmas to share. And he just looked at me like, what? I said, we need a punching bag to work out some of this energy on, buddy. And man, he was dead serious. He just looked at me. He said, Handy Boo, don't you think you'd just kind of fall apart if you attacked a punching bag? I was like, no, I don't think I would fall apart if I had a punching bag. Oh my gosh. I could have wrung his neck.
You're there. My screen is going blank on me. Okay, now it's back.
Oh, you disappeared.
You there? Oh,
We
I'm out.
don't see.
Let's see back.
Let's see.
No, it says you're still in here.
Okay, I can hear you guys. Can you hear me? Yeah, my
We
screen
can hear you, but can't see you.
my screen went blank and it says
Mm-hmm.
your browser's lost connection to your camera.
Uh-oh.
Make sure you have the right camera.
You hit the wrong button somewhere.
Well, the whole screen went black, and then when it came back, this is what it's.
Let's see if it'll do a solo with you in here. Maybe we get you. No. We can hear you though. There's no visual.
It might be gone.
There you go. Maybe knock on the door again. But yeah, Lisa knows what we're talking about. Them
First. That's just how it goes in the South. If you love each other, you're gonna laugh before you make sure they're okay.
But there's times I hesitate because I look for the reaction.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, if I laugh now, boy, it's going to set her off. I ain't fixing to do that yet. Give it a little time to idle on down.
Yeah.
Then
you can laugh about it. Well, you got your 2 hours.
You time to cut it off?
I'm just
She's
saying,
saying
you
2
made
hours.
it 2 hours.
Yep, we did it, y'all. Well, we got 30 in here riding it out with us. Thank y'all. Thank y'all.
Yeah,
Like I said,
I'm surprised.
we just going, we just piddling with it. Hope y'all really do enjoy uh, the old journal and everything. We just trying to switch it up a little bit. Good. You got everybody else in the chat. We talking, you go through the full run of beekeeping as far as what's the best equipment, things like that now, and different ways of beekeeping. We're just trying to bring, I don't know, a little bit something
just
different, I guess.
I mean, a lot of people have responded positively to it.
Well, for the Canadian guys, maybe I can try to find the Canadian beekeepers and see what them dudes are saying up there, how they doing things. But it is neat knowing the different ways and practices that people were doing things.
But we get into that a lot. Like, that's just an interesting topic to us. Like, how did, our grandparents and great grandparents and great great grandparents do these things?
There ain't a whole lot from what we go through and read that has really changed as far as
Mostly just the equipment has improved.
It got way more expensive.
Chris.
What do you say, Chris? Good to see you, bud.
See you in a while.
Like me and another gentleman was talking the other day on the phone, and there is a lot of let me say you this and let me say you that in the beekeeping world, in which some of it is helpful. Don't get me wrong, but a lot of it is just how can a dollar be made by reinventing the wheel in a lot of ways, equipment wise. Because you got this type box. First, we started out with a wooden box, and now you're getting into, the insulated boxes, and just different things are moving along on those ends. It's basically the same, but yet there's just a little bit of different change and stuff. But there are some things that it sounds like a good idea at the moment. Then you buy it and you use it just a handful of times. Then it sits on the shelf and collects dust for the remainder of the season, or until you chunk it, whatever the case may be.
It is ramping up Thanksgiving week in the morning.
Hint number 2.
Gosh. That's all I hear. No matter what I say about the live chat, any day of the week, it's blah blah blah. Lord, trying to read the chat. Oh, you pushed a button with that one.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, we'll end it there, I reckon.
Why don't you just stay up as late as you want to with it? Lord, have mercy, button.
Thank you. Yeah, I guess that really is, y'all. Done about run out of steam and energy. Or steam. Nothing to load on the computer. I'll be running to another subject matter, which I had to save that a little bit more too. I'm really trying to dig into this alley method. Is really piqued my interest on, trying to do something with them queens this coming year. Everything that goes right or a little better or better. Really, really probably going to try that method to see. From what I've read, the queens allegedly are very, very good queens coming out by his method, because apparently the bees can pick what's best as far as queen variety and things of that nature. And another thing too, one thing I did look at, I think it was Mr. Mike Conley suggested that if we're going to be doing queens or trying to get, like the nukes built up quick and good again, was to maybe invest in or build, what do you call that? Queen castle, to raise new queens up,
Mm.
then start building our little old nukes. Now that did seem to be a good idea for us if the method works. If the queens go and do the whole process, if we get good returns on them and get laying queens out of the process. But we won't know till we get there. Lord willing, come spring, and we'll see about that. As far as on the queen rearing off that, but really, really think we're gonna try that. You don't like that idea?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, y'all. We're gonna wrap it up. We do appreciate everybody coming in, commenting, watching. Do hope you enjoy. But
Hope y'all have a good Thanksgiving week.
that's
It's
right.
gonna be a busy week for everybody, I'm sure.
Yeah. Happy Turkey Day.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all be careful traveling, all that good stuff.
Yeah.
And Lord willing, we'll see y'all on the next one.
Yep.
Y'all take care.
Care.